So I've seen a lot of phones, good ones, bad ones, weird ones. But every once in a while, you come across a device that isn't just bad, it's a catastrophe. A piece of tech so fundamentally flawed, it makes you question how it ever even made it to production. Today, we're talking about one of those legends of failure. This is the story of Nomura, a company that tried to take on the giants and ended up creating what might just be the worst phone company ever. Now think back to the mid-2000s, the smartphone race was just heating up. Apple had just dropped the original iPhone, completely changing the game. Everyone was scrambling to compete, to create their own iPhone killer. And then there was Nomura. While Apple was focused on premium materials, intuitive software, and a seamless user experience, Nomura went in the exact opposite direction. Their strategy wasn't to beat Apple at their own game. It was to create a phone so cheap that, in theory, everyone could own one. But as we've seen time and time again in tech, cutting corners has consequences, and Nomura didn't just cut corners. They took a chainsaw to the entire blueprint of what a phone should be. The result was a device that failed on every conceivable level, a spectacular disaster that serves as a perfect case study in how to build a phone. So, let's get this thing out of the box. This is the Nomura phone, and trust me, you're not ready for this. So, our story begins in Spain, back in 2005. A company called Nomura pops up, seemingly out of nowhere, with a bold vision. They wanted to connect the world, but not with high-end, $1,000 flagships. Their goal was the absolute bottom of the market. They saw the smartphone revolution happening, but they felt it was leaving a huge chunk of the population behind. The idea was noble, I guess. Make a phone so unbelievably cheap that affordability would never be a barrier for anyone. It's a decent mission statement on paper. The problem is, building hardware is hard, and building good software is even harder. Nomura, a small startup with limited resources, decided to do everything themselves. They designed their own hardware, their own proprietary, ultra-lightweight operating system, and they sourced the absolute cheapest components they could find from various suppliers. They were chasing a price point, not an experience. This singular focus on cost saving would become the defining characteristic of the company, and ultimately, the architect of its downfall. They were setting themselves up for a disaster from day one. Let's just state the obvious right up front. This is not just a low-end phone, it is the of a low-end phone. The experience of using it is, to put it mildly, painful. From the moment you press the power button, you're greeted with a loading screen that feels like it lasts an eternity. Just navigating the home screen is a challenge. Every swipe, every tap is met with a significant delay. It's not just lag. It feels like the phone is actively fighting against your every command, processing each input as if it's a monumental task. It's the kind of lag that makes you second-guess your own actions. Did I tap that icon? I think I did. Let me tap it again. Oh wait, now it's registered both taps and opened and closed the menu. The processor inside this thing, and I'm using the term processor very loosely here, is so underpowered that it struggles with the most basic functions of the operating system itself. Forget multitasking. This phone can barely handle a single task. It's a masterclass in frustration, packaged in a cheap plastic shell that feels like it could break if you just look at it the wrong way. Alright, so you've fought through the lag and you're ready to customize your phone. You go to the App Store, which, by the way, is a barren wasteland with about a dozen sketchy-looking apps. You see a simple weather app and think, okay, let's start there. You tap install, wait about 10 minutes for it to download and install, and congratulations, you now have a weather app. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. That's it, you're done. You can only install one app. I'm not exaggerating. The phone's internal storage is so minuscule, and the OS is so poorly designed, that it literally only has space allocated for a single third-party application. If you want to install a different app, say a calculator, you first have to uninstall the weather app. It turns the entire concept of a smartphone on its head. It's not about what you do with it. It's about making a single, agonizing choice about the one, and only one, extra function you want your phone to have. It's less of a feature and more of a philosophical dilemma. So, what about the smart part of the smartphone? What about the internet? Well, if you thought the performance was bad, just wait until you try to browse the web. The Nemora phone is technically internet capable, but it features a 2G connection that feels slower than dial-up. Trying to load a simple text-based web page is an exercise in extreme patience. You can literally watch the page draw itself, line by line, over the course of several minutes. It's a throwback to the earliest days of the mobile web, and not in a fun, nostalgic way. And images, forget about it. Trying to load a page with any sort of media is a guaranteed failure. Most of the time, you'll just see broken image icons. On the rare occasion an image does start to load, you can go make a coffee, come back, and it might be halfway done rendering. This isn't just a poor internet experience, it's a non-functional one. It makes you wonder why they even bothered to include a browser. It's like selling a car with wheels but no engine. Sure, it has the shape of a car, but it's not going to get you anywhere. Okay, let's talk customization. A phone's wallpaper is a small way to make it your own, right? A picture of your pet, a cool landscape, a simple abstract design. Well, Nemora decided to take even that simple joy away from you. The phone comes with a set of preloaded wallpapers, and I have to say, they are genuinely, unsettlingly disgusting. We're not talking about poorly designed patterns or low-resolution photos. We're talking about bizarre, off-putting, and frankly, gross images. Imagine a close-up of mold growing on bread. Imagine a blurry photo of what looks like a pile of wet garbage. Or my personal favorite, a sickly green and brown abstract pattern that looks like something you'd see under a microscope in a biology lab. There's no way to add your own wallpapers, of course. You are stuck with these choices. It's as if the designers actively tried to create the most visually repulsive experience possible. It's not just bad design, it's hostile design. The phone doesn't just work poorly, it seems to hate you. So, you've decided to brave the dial-up era internet speeds and attempt to use the web browser. You tap the icon, wait for the app to slowly open, and for a fleeting moment, you see the browser interface. A search bar, maybe a bookmark or two. But then, before you can even type a single letter, a message pops up on the screen. No signal. And just as quickly, the app crashes, kicking you back to the painfully laggy home screen. Every single time. It doesn't matter if you have a full-strength 2G signal. It doesn't matter if you're standing right next to a cell tower. The browser is coded in such a way that it seems to have a fatal flaw. It opens, fails to properly connect or initialize, and then immediately force closes. This isn't a random bug, it's a 100% reproducible failure. They shipped a phone with a web browser icon that literally just opens an app for 1 second before it crashes. It's the ultimate bait and switch, a button that does nothing but remind you how broken this device truly is. If the browser is a non-starter, what about the one game that comes pre-installed? It's a cheap knockoff of Snake, which, seems simple enough. How could they possibly mess that up? Well, you tap the game icon, and much like the browser, the title screen flashes before your eyes for a brief, hopeful second. You see the pixelated snake, the name of the game, and then poof, you're right back at the home screen. The game crashes instantly, every single time. It's the exact same issue as the browser. The application is fundamentally broken and cannot run on the phone's own operating system. They included an icon for a game that is completely unplayable. It's almost impressive. They managed to fail at implementing one of the simplest and oldest mobile games in history. It's another dead icon on a home screen full of disappointment. It's not a phone. It's a collection of broken promises, each represented by a useless little pixelated square. You can't browse, you can't play games, you can barely even navigate the menus. So, you'd think the one thing this phone could do is charge. It's a basic function of any electronic device. You plug it in, it gets power. Simple. But with the Nemora phone, even this simple act is fraught with peril. The moment you plug in the charger, and it's a proprietary flimsy-looking charger, of course, the screen flickers and a terrifying pop-up appears. It's a skull and crossbones icon with a dire warning. Dangerous virus detected. Unplug immediately. The phone doesn't charge. Instead, the software intentionally blocks the charging process and throws up this scary, alarming message. It's not a real virus, but a catastrophic software bug tied to the charging port. The OS misinterprets the electrical signal from the charger as a malicious attack and initiates this bizarre pre-programmed lockdown. So, to be clear, you cannot charge the phone while it's turned on. The only way to charge it is to power it off completely, plug it in, and pray. It's the only phone I've ever seen that treats its own power source as a hostile threat. Given that the phone thinks its own charger is a virus, you might assume Nomura was concerned about security. You would be wrong. The phone has absolutely zero security features. No firewall, no encryption, and most critically, no antivirus software. The operating system is so basic and so poorly written that it's essentially an open door for any potential attacker. It has no defenses of any kind. Now, you might think, well, who would bother hacking a phone this terrible? But in the world of cybersecurity, any vulnerable device on a network is a potential liability. This phone is a ghost on the network, completely invisible to security scans and completely defenseless against even the most basic malware or sniffing attacks. If you were ever to connect this to a Wi-Fi network, which is impossible since it doesn't have Wi-Fi, but hypothetically, it would be the weakest link by a massive margin. It's not just insecure, it's anti-secure. We've now established that this phone fails at software, performance, connectivity, security, and even charging. But the grand finale, the most spectacular failure of all, is its structural integrity. Or rather, the complete lack thereof. Most phones are drop-tested to withstand minor tumbles. The Nomura phone, on the other hand, seems to have been designed with a self-destruct mechanism. If you drop this phone, it doesn't just crack the screen, it explodes. I'm not talking about a battery fire, which is dangerous enough. I mean the entire device shatters in a dramatic, explosive fashion. The cheap plastic casing, the poorly secured internal components, and the unstable low-grade battery all combine to create a legitimate hazard. A minor drop from waist height onto a carpeted floor is enough to cause the battery to rupture and the casing to fly apart in a shower of plastic shrapnel. It is, without a doubt, the most unsafe and dangerous phone I have ever encountered. It's not a device, it's a liability. So there you have it, the Nomura phone. A device that can't run apps, can't browse the web, can't play games, treats its own charger as a virus, has no security, and physically explodes if you drop it. It should come as no surprise that this phone was a complete and utter market failure. After just a few years of abysmal sales and probably a few lawsuits, the phone was officially discontinued in 2011. The company itself, Nomura, limped on for a couple more years before finally declaring bankruptcy in 2013, vanishing from the tech world forever. The story of Nomura is a cautionary tale. It's a perfect example of how chasing the lowest possible price point without any regard for user experience, safety, or basic functionality is a recipe for disaster. They didn't just make a bad phone. They made a phone that was actively hostile to its user. It's a relic from an era of weird tech experiments, a monument to failure that we can all look back on and learn from. It serves as a reminder of just how much thought and engineering goes into the amazing devices we carry in our pockets today. In the end, after spending a week with this technological terror, I can confidently say that this $5 phone that lags, has no apps, and explodes when you drop it is, without a shadow of a doubt, better than an iPhone. I'm kidding, obviously. This is the worst thing I've ever touched. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.